It doesn't even really matter if this is true or not, but I heard some people talk badly about Ken, the Melee player, and I had never met him at the time. And now, like, when I met him for the first time at EVO 2013, up until, like, you know, now, I've only had good experiences with Ken. So I like Ken. I like Ken. But I heard bad stories about him for whatever reasons. And some people said, like, oh, it's because he thinks he's too good, blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of like, you know, I don't want to judge someone I've never met. Because, like, I don't know this guy, right? He might be a good guy. He might be a bad guy. I don't know, right? But I was like, I don't want people, if I ever make it to #1, I don't want people to ever talk about me, like, you know, in that type of way. Of course, you can't control, like, everyone, but, like, I don't want them to, like, say it and be right about it. So I was like, from the start, I was like, I don't want to change and become, like, you know, a worse person just because if I happen to get good at the game, right? Yeah, but what Choicepick says is true. Like, most top players are completely more than okay with people coming up and talking to them. If they have like a tournament match or they just lost a match, that's a pretty bad timing. But for the most part, yeah. Rocky, that video did quite a few things wrong. Partly, it only counted first place. And even though my one trick is winning tournaments, I didn't in fact win every single tournament I entered. It also missed quite a few tournaments. And on top of that, a lot of people that play Smash, like at the highest level, and that make a living of Smash, they actually don't only make money from winning tournaments. Streaming, sponsorship, like for me being part of Alliance, for Leffen, like TSM, like salaries from these teams also adds. Then quite a lot of us have like YouTube channels on top of that as well. So it's like all factors combined. Well, EVO is like the worst tournament in terms of like prize money for Smash. The best is Smash Summit when it comes to... But don't get me wrong, EVO is still like a super important tournament. I know Mango was like talking a bunch of shit yesterday, like, I was like, oh, winning EVO doesn't mean shit. That was Leffen. Why does it drag me down into that shit? I always said how important EVO is for us. Do I think 2 out of 3 sucks? Yeah, that will never change. But the prestige of winning EVO is very big. Like, even though they do things wrong, doesn't take away from like the fact that it's the tournament with the most viewers and everything. No, even if HBox stops playing Melee, I have no intention of starting to enter Melee singles. Yeah, I've heard of Low Tier God. I had never heard about him until Anti called him out on Twitter. Like, Low Tier God made some comment along the lines that Smash players can't play real fighting games or something like that, and then Anti perfected him in a round of Street Fighter. I was like, get wrecked, kid. Sometimes I go for roller from far away if I think people are gonna throw a projectile, like Yoshi egg, or if I think a wolf is gonna do a laser. Sometimes I jump above and do roller. I wish Ultimate had a decent price pool and payouts. Yeah, it's just hard though, since the main company behind the game, like Nintendo don't care about esports. They see it more as a way of like, you know, get free advertisement, and then when the game isn't like, you know, super new and fresh, they just leave. How do I feel about how we did it in Melee doubles at G6? I feel like we very clearly could and probably should have been able to beat S2J and Shroom, but besides that, I honestly don't feel too bad about it. I barely played Melee for a long time, and Android's hands are destroyed pretty much. Like, he can't really play Smash. Like, when we did try to get some practice in for Genesis, he needed like to rest his hands every like 30 minutes. I think Android was more disappointed than I was. I don't know. I just feel like I have a hard time to care any longer about like tournaments and results. My hands are fine. My hands are fine. I've not had any hand issues. But yeah. Do I react to Nintendo Directs on stream? Well, I've had them up. Like, I've re-streamed Nintendo Directs in the past, but not often. And I'm not really like the regular streamer. Like, if we put it this way, it's hard to impress me. A lot of streamers, they like scream to everything. I'm not really that type of guy. If I get hyped, it's because it's like, I actually think it's really, really hype. But I'm not the type of person that like, I do a one-hit combo like, wow, did you guys see that? The coolest thing, and then clickbait on YouTube. It's like, I can't do that shit. No, Rick, you know when it comes to Mario Kart, my biggest reactions is getting fucked over by all the red shells. Dude, mentioning Mario Kart Wii, I just remember that that YouTube video. I think it's a Daisy. I might be wrong. But they play on that DK stage from Mario Kart Double Dash, and the Daisy goes from first place to last place in the most unlucky sequence in Mario Kart history. That was actually so funny. I wish I could have seen like the actual reaction to the player. Not to sound like negative or anything, but this game, unless like some crazy patches happen, will never ever look as fast and quote-unquote crazy as Melee. Like, don't get me wrong, I think this game has a very bright future, but the game engine doesn't allow for like that type of gameplay. But yeah, no, I see this game as a game that's gonna stay strong for a long time, assuming it's not like a very bad patch comes out. Apparently, it seems like what happened with Dragon Ball. And then apparently like you need to like pay a lot of money to like run Dragon Ball tournaments. So if those type of things happens, then that will be very bad for Ultimate. But I don't see Nintendo do that. And even if they do, I feel like the massive like you know, backlash online would make them change their mind. How did I support myself in the early days of Melee? I was in school, like. When I, for the first time, became the best in the world in Melee, I was like in the middle of high school. So, I lived at home with my parents. So, I didn't like have, you know, like bills and pay for food and stuff like that. Like, sure, I helped my family in like some ways because I have 10 siblings and I did not grow up like in a, how do you say, a rich family. Rich with love, rich with love. Like, our family, we're really close to each other. Like, all the siblings, you know, we have good contact with each other and stuff. But it was, like, not rich by any means. But, I think the roller nerf was reasonable. Honestly, I don't think any nerfs was, like, necessary at all. But at the very least, it wasn't a big nerf. Like, the character didn't die with the nerf. But I feel like more and more people are starting to feel that Inkling was not nearly as good as, you know, they were 100% convinced of. Is Olimar the puff of this game? I wouldn't really say so. The reason why is because Olimar doesn't like break rules of the game the way Puff does in Melee. Like, it's so many things that are like, you know, such important aspects of Melee, like rules, that Puff ignores. And yes, Reddit fanboys, don't get mad just because I'm stating the truth. I feel like the meta changes. For example, Peach would fall after my retirement. The thing is, I think then that if people only rank Peach lower because I stopped playing, then I feel like people are not even trying to understand the game. Peach is exactly the same character after I retired. Whether people decide to play the character or if people suck with the character, that doesn't change. She's still exactly the same character. I think it's much more like, we should talk more about how good the characters are in the right hands, rather than like, oh, no one plays Peach, so now she has to be bad. Like, hypothetically, let's say no Peach ever performs well again. I don't think she's like, you know, worse than Pikachu or Yoshi just because Axe and Amsa stays, you know, relevant. Like, then it's not Peach being like worse than Pikachu or Yoshi. Then it's like the players playing are worse. That's a different thing. Like, look at this for example. Most people, even Reddit would agree that Puff is better than Falcon. Falcon is much more popular. People think Falcon is more fun on average. Does that mean Falcon is better than Puff? No. No one would probably say that. Probably like 1 or 2 idiots, but like for the most part, like 99% of the people would agree Puff is better than Falcon. And the thing is, why is that the case? Not because like you see like 15 Puff players perform in tournament, but the character is better. Falcon is just more popular. If Amsa is getting Yoshi into top 4, is he pushing Yoshi up the tier list, or is it because Amsa's playstyle? The thing is, good results with a character doesn't necessarily mean they will climb, or should climb the list if you ask me. It might be the case, but like I feel like if people only go by results, you're not that way you're not admitting that it can also be that one player is just clearly better. Like sometimes I feel like, you know, this character is number 1. And that character might have the best results, but not necessarily. I'm not really sure if I explained this, like, you know, well enough. But if we put it this way, let's say Amsa becomes the best player in the world with Yoshi, but nothing really changes with the character, not any like game-breaking stuff that gets discovered. Let's say Yoshi have like, we don't learn more about Yoshi. At all, but Amsa starts winning tournaments. Yoshi is not the best character in Melee just because he wins tournaments. Well, the thing is, if people did not spend money on the votes for Summit, that tournament series wouldn't exist. Like, think about it. They're flying out 16 people. You have flights for 16 people. Even if someone lives in Cali, you still have to spend flights on many people. You spend hotel costs for a bunch of people. You spend food on a shit ton of people. You spend like production costs, people's salaries that they are working, like that's their full-time work running Summit events. Like how would they like financially run the tournament? I feel like that's something people often forget about. They think like, you know, oh, why are they having a compendium where people spend money? It's like, well, if they don't, we don't have Summit, period.